everyone. Welcome again for our Spiritism at Noon Tuesdays. Again, I do remind you that we are recording our meetings and study groups. And if you, by any chance you don't want your name or yourself to show, you just have to use the three dots and remove the image and the name, okay? So we are studying the book um, Alert by Joanna de Angelis that is not yet published into English. And we are today on lesson 21 already, 21 weeks that we have been studying this book already. So with faith and perseverance. Let me just open here already the chat. So if we have anything or any question that comes from this chat, we have it open. Okay, so I'm going to start reading. And as always, all the participation is more than welcome. And so with faith and perseverance, have no doubts that these are days of moral transition and the planet's spiritual growth. In face of the circumstances, do not be surprised with the afflictive emotional landscape present amongst humankind everywhere. Angst and dissatisfaction create lamentable situations, while violence and aggression produce madness and crime. Not only that, disturbing states of the soul dominate large bands of humanity as consequences of social, economic, and psychological factors. These factors attest to the precariousness of values under which the apparent success of intelligence was raised and presently applied in external conquests with no support from sentiments turned towards goodness. Likewise, at this moment, the exchange is more extensive, although unconscious, with the discarnate spirits and those who are in distress. Uh, it seems that Joanna de Angelis, wrote that for us today, right? I don't remember quite well what was the year that this book was written, but I would go and say, I don't know, perhaps 20 years ago, something like that. I can check later and try to inform you. But yes, this is a message that we can apply completely to our situation today when we realize that all the change, all the transition represents a process. It doesn't represent anything that happens in the short term. So this has been happening for at least the past 50 years that we have been getting into this preparation for changes, and God only knows how long it's going to take for us to complete this phase and to go to the next phase. This because, of course, it depends on us as well. It depends on how much we are applying ourselves to advance. But it's not surprising, as she says here, that when we are going through periods of a moral transition, moral here in the sense of moral improvement, of changing morally, of evolving morally, spiritually speaking, that we are going to be find people, or I mean, the majority of us going through a turmoil of emotions. And some of those emotions are not good ones, like she says here, in terms of, us being rebellious, completely dissatisfied, or giving ourselves to violence, to aggression, engaging ourselves in negative actions. So, And on top of that, of course, we are also going through big social economical problems, and that leads as well to psychological problems, adding psychological factors in terms of the changes produced in our spirits. And here she comes and tell us, do you remember that incarnates are not the only beings of the universe and not really on this planet Earth? So we have the discarnates as well. And since we connect with them by mental way, so to say, by our emotions, the way we will attune, of course, on top of everything, it is when we also make connections with discarnate spirits. As always, just to remind everyone and everyone that is going to watch this later, the connection is always going to depend on us, and in our inclinations, in our emotional state. So we have to. That's why we have to pay attention to that. That's why Joanna de Angelis, in a way, is saying, "Listen, it is important for you to pay attention to your emotions. It is important for you to." Try to adapt to the changes or the spirit of changes in the world as much as possible, because on top of everything, we also are going to be absorbing the desires, the emotions of other beings invisible to us for the moment. Okay. Questions, comments?
So why I checked and the book, the first edition came out on 1981.
91. So yeah, it's going to be 20 years next year. Yeah,
So
in a month. Yeah, great. Thank you, Marisol.
so in so why why is the exchange with the discarnates spirit is more ostensive?
Uh, well, yeah, it's a very good question, because in a way, we know that we will have, or we always make connections. I think what she's trying to explain to us here is that the more we live in this disturbing state of the soul, the more we are going to be connecting with the discarnate spirits, from the same level, in the same category that we are now, thinking about being emotional and balanced. And since things are aggravating as a whole because of the period of transition, we will see, I mean, the more we see people going through a state of imbalance, the more we will be having the participation, the co-participation of spirits as well. I think that's in the way what she's trying to say, because you see, we always have this kind of exchanges, and and also with good spirits, but good spirits are very respectful of our free will, of our lives. They leave us to live, leave us to live our lives, and they don't interfere. And they may send advices, they may be praying with us, for us, etc., inspiring people to come and to give advices to us. But the thing is, they do not interfere with our day-to-day affairs. Though the other categories of spirits, they do. I mean, it's also a way of them feeling alive in a way. And so the more we allow them through our imbalance to connect, the more we will see their action, or their, like they say, that we say here, undirected action in people's lives as a rule.
So is it then fair to say that because we as human have turned have uh, turned more and more into a materialistic or attached to all the what is material, that there is more susceptibility for these manifestations, let's call it?
Well, as always, I'm thinking about a cake. Okay. You have a cake. Yeah, beautiful, delicious. You don't cover the cake and leave it outdoor. What happens? The flies and everything else, the bees, everything will come and attack. So we are talking about something similar here in terms of how we behave and think. If we do not protect ourselves, we will attract, not only we will attract negativity, but maybe even in great numbers. And so this is what she's saying here. All this combined, thinking that we are in a period of moral transition, exactly for the spiritual growth of the planet, that there is so many, turmoil in terms of our emotions and negative emotions and dissatisfaction and all fomenting even more, this negativity. It's like, we left ourselves unprotected, and then we create a more a bigger condition for them to come and participate and with their emotions that is like ours or even worse. So this is more or less what happens. And it's very hard because how do you keep yourself balanced in times of so much uncertainty? That's the $1 million question. Or, right, using a very materialistic expression. Um, I mean, the answer we know.
Yeah.
To be able to put that in practice is a different thing, right? How do that? It's a different question. Uh, but we already know the answer, because see, before we didn't even know that this could be the case, that if we would go just giving room to our negative emotions, do as they're pleased, that it was just us in the picture. Now she's saying, you know what, it's not. And if you could see who you are attracting next to you, probably you would make more effort to change your ways. Questions, comments? Of course, from the title, we know that she's going to bring us something, right? She's already hinting faith and perseverance, right? So, okay, let's read a little bit more. The complex burdens of negative and depressing information incite maladjustment of various types and the hastening of the hour's acclaim to excessive pleasures in detriment of the cultivated peace based on a strictly fulfilled duty and love that was superiorly lived. So, what happens when we see all that happen? We behave like children. We attack the cake like there is no tomorrow, right? We go there and and have no measures in bringing as much pleasure to our lives as we can. And of course, unfortunately, the way we look for pleasure and satisfaction and happiness is not the way of, more evolved spirits, so to say. Um, it's not something that is going to bring us satisfaction and happiness that last. So that is the great problem. I think the big problem we have to face. So here she says, surrounded by so much negativity, depressing information, you turn on the TV. I mean, that's like, remember that I always call the bad news at 11. That I don't know how come people can go to sleep after listening to that. And then what happens is we say, you know what, I have to fend for myself and take the most out of it, according to how I think or how what pleases me. And of course, this is a very wrong decision for us to take, because it's going to compromise us. Instead of us looking for solutions that will guarantee really peace and even happiness, we will look for, like you were saying, Marisol, the happiness of the world, the solutions of the world. And this is not going to solve any situation, only aggravate things. Questions, comments? Okay, let's read a bit more. Moments arise when you suppose you are no longer able to endure the desperate situation. Everyone seems like an adversary to you or comes across as ungrateful. You make a quick evaluation of your activities, and the harvest seems trivial to what you consider a great investment on your part. An out of control mind refuses to affix edifying teachings, and affection refuses to enlarge the plane of relationships, fearing ridicule, rejection, and abandonment. You have been considering only what is prejudicial without realizing that callously you attune with those whose behavior you lament, deserving disregard. In every process of growth, unexpected situations arise, no matter how well the development of propitious factors are programmed for such fatalities. Okay, so here, I mean, I think we relate to that so easily, right? There comes a time, if it's just one, great, where you say, oh my God, this is hard. This is a desperate situation. I don't know if I can deal with that any longer. You look around and you don't seem to find any safe port. You think everyone is against you, no one understands you, and everything that you have been doing, sacrificing so much to to do things right, to become better, uh, you don't see the results of that. I mean, it's very much like, I put the seed on the ground today, and tomorrow I wanted to have the fruit already, to eat the fruit. So while the seed is on the ground, we don't see, we cannot evaluate um, the development of everything. So we want results in the short term. And then we start, in a way, even sabotaging ourselves because we start questioning, relationships. Um, what is the point? It's not going to work anyway. It's going to come to boredom or whatever, all the things you can think in terms related to that. Of course, the more we think in a negative way, the more we are digging a hole for ourselves. And it becomes very hard for us when we are facing those situations, uh, to move in a more positive direction. And she ends this part here saying that it's perfectly normal that in every process of growth, that even when everything is well planned, well developed, that we are going to find challenges. That challenges are going to present to ourselves. Many times that have nothing to do with our actions, with what we are doing. It's just part of the process. When we always talk about, children growing, the growing pains. I mean, they are growing. They have to go through the process of growth, but it means a certain pain because the body is changing. So let's say our spiritual body is changing, and there is no way we can go through that without facing certain situations. Okay, comments?
Can I say, like, it's like a test for us in process of learning, then the challenge appear in front of us, like, oh, you have to practice what we are learning. I can say like this in this way.
Yeah, absolutely, Sonia. I think it's a very way of putting that, a very good way of putting that, actually, even, when we are talking about exercising, we start, working our muscles lightly until, we are capable of doing more and more and more when we are practicing, becoming a musician. The more we work on it, the more we exercise. It's like, we have muscles of the soul, of the spirit, that need to be to go through certain process, so that we can establish this growth. It is important at this point to mention that here we are not saying that suffering should be part of our process of growing. Which challenges, difficulties, like when you are playing a game, and that can even be exciting because it's challenging you to new things. It doesn't need to represent any kind um, of pain, so to say, of suffering, so to say. So we are the ones that have been with our actions, with our way of behaving, thinking, etc., are bringing bad results to us. But the challenge is there, when you start going to school, when you have to start, drawing the letter A, the letter B, the letter C. That is not suffering. That is a challenge. It can be hard, but at the end of the day, you know that this is going to bring you so much fulfillment. Okay, so we are saying the same thing in terms of us growing spiritually speaking. So it's not the suffering that is necessary, but the experience. And the experience may be acquired in more or less suffering way, depending on the the routes we have established for ourselves. Yes,
Yeah.
Marisol.
Yes, I think like now that you're saying that, because for example, a kid learning the alphabet, and then studying in being in the same class or at the same level with other kids, and then one start um seeing the traits of like comparison or like competition, and it's interesting how yes, we carry, of course, the positive, but all these things also uh, you see all these things even in the spiritual studies, or in spiritual growth, when you see that someone is doing better or is absorbing the studies better, you still see those kind of qualities that are very low in vibration.
It's very interesting, this point that you're bringing, Marisol, because you see, this is how we can really establish that a child is not a blank slate. Because you see, some children will have this kind of behavior, like I want that, or being envious or this and that. Other children will say, oh my god, you do that so much better than I do, can you teach me how to do it? Can you show me how can I do like you are doing? So we see how we, as spirits that have been setting foot on this earth for quite some time already, millennia, we have different ways of dealing with things and seeing things. uh, but the most important thing for us to think about, even because we already have uh, ways of comparing that, is look at history. If we look at history, is undeniable that we are progressing. Yes, there is a long way to go, but we are progressing. Even yesterday, I was talking to Johnny and saying, how we can see so clear now, when you pass your 50s, that we need generations, to change things. Because then I was thinking, what our children know today, Sonia, I have Cicilene here, even Soraya, all those that have children, they are no longer even children now. Comparing them to their grandparents or great grandparents, we already see so much change in their behaviors, in terms of how they see the world and behave towards each other. Uh,
Yes.
Everything that we are talking about, prejudice nowadays, it comes more from, the 40 plus generation than the 40 last generation already. And so I can see clearly how my son differs from his grandmother and grandfather in terms of how he sees the world, how he sees gender, ethnicities, countries, everything that we want to talk about, justice. So this is happening. The world is progressing. Of course, like Orlando was saying here, it's bad that we are still destroying ourselves in crimes and wars, but this is going to reduce even more, and I think we had just uh, how do you say, a taste, amostra grátis, como é que a gente fala isso em inglês? How do you say, like a taste, a free sample. We are just having a free sample of what can happen with this pandemic. This is just a free sample. It's God telling us, listen, children, you want to taste the consequences of your own actions and see whether you like it, the results of them or not, or you want to go even farther than that. I think this year, and I mean, we are in December already, my God, it is exactly that. It's calling our attention to say, you don't think that there are things that can change your life overnight? And make you regret, or even miss somehow the hard times, the hardships that you were having before. Like I'm lately I've been saying that I miss so much my sleepless nights in a plane going to another place. But I was traveling, never more I'm going, oh, maybe I cannot say that, but I'm going to complain of a sleepless night in a plane, So, yeah. And we see, I mean, through that, how much can change, and how what can happen to lead us to change.
Yeah.
Comments, questions, more. Let's see how she ends that. However, you can accomplish growth but by not allowing yourself to harvest bitterness or thieving with pessimism. The human vessel does not find itself in the ocean of progress hazardly, moving towards wreckage. Jesus leads the destiny of earth, and the supreme laws of God guard the glorious destination of creation. So here she's saying that the more we prevent ourselves to be enveloped by all this wave of negativity, the better it's going to be for ourselves. And even not understanding or not seeing, the end of the torment, the tempest, for us to trust, to have faith and persevere, which is exactly the title of our topic today, because we are not here a little boat on these turbulent waters without a direction. There is Jesus, there are the laws of God, they are looking after the work of creation. Comments, questions?
It seems to me that this last phrase also indicates that no matter what we do that's wrong, Jesus has control.
Exactly, Philip. It will find a way to put us in the right. But we have to remember that sometimes, depending on how we behave, this way may require a surgical procedure, right?
That's
And
true.
a surgical procedure is always hard, even when you know that after that you are going to feel better. Everything, I mean, you're going to be healthier, but still we have to go through that.
Yes.
uh, so it comes a time where, very much like parents go to their children say, enough is enough,
Yeah.
right? We let you try to solve the situation, deal with that as you pleased. We gave you many opportunities, but now we have to interfere.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've been behaving like little children, right? Until
Yes.
the point where the parent comes and say, okay, you asked for it. And that's I think, what is happening to us this year. We have asked for this. And thank God it's been difficult, but it could have been much worse. Much worse.
Okay. Mm.
I don't know about you, but I was thinking yes, I don't even remember my usual routine before. I mean, it's less than a year, almost. I mean, it's always going to be a year, and I don't remember
Right.
my usual routine before. See how much we can put in the past things. Can the spirit world prepare the incarnate spirit like prisoners are giving classes before releasing them into society? Actually, Orlando, without using exactly this terminology, okay, because the prisoners is exactly when we are here, not when we are there.
Right.
But this is what happened, before reincarnation. For many of us, considering the how we are and positioning ourselves today, I'm pretty sure we participated in our process of, in our decisions for our this present incarnation. And some of us participated more or less, but we were duly prepared, because the aim of incarnation is for us to succeed. So you don't throw someone in the pool that cannot swim. You are going to give them the basic lessons for them to survive, being thrown in a pool. Whether they're going to be great swimmers, or are going to uh, react with fear, or are going to abuse their physical body, thinking, oh, I can swim 4 hours straight, and then your muscles give up, and you can even drown because they get you have cramps. How we are going to do that is up to us, but they will not do that with us. We will not be thrown in an incarnation without preparation, without having the minimal condition to deal with what we have to do. And remember that most of the times, even when we read in the books, Life in the Spirit World by the collection of Andrea Lewis through Francisco Xavier, Sometimes we even try to ask for more, and they are the ones that say, no, no, no. That's already enough for you. That's enough on your plate for right now. If you do that already, it's going to be great, wonderful. Don't rush too much. So not only they prepare us, but they also give us advice in terms of what we can deal with, considering our condition. And on top of all that, we don't come alone. And I'm not talking about the physical family. I'm talking about a 24/7 spirit designated to help us, that we know as our guardian angels. I think sometimes we forget about, our poor spirit benefactors that represent guardian angels in our lives. They are here 24/7 to help and to assist us. And how many times we think about them or pray to them or thank them for their diligence towards us, for persevering and having faith in relation to us when we are there messing up with our lives. So, yeah, let's read the last paragraph. Leave the negative settings and follow the progress of love. These are emotions of sanctification. There are emotions of sanctification in renunciations and sacrifices conjoined for general happiness. Contribute with your share of goodness and optimism, turning on lights rather than berating in shadows, helping instead of claiming assistance, enlightening instead of complaining against ignorance, apologizing without excogitating to receive understanding, edifying loving souls instead of demolishing them with brick hammers of malaise and revolt. Keep in mind that despite of the dark night, the sun continues to shine, sustaining life and maintaining the gravitational equilibrium of the system, even though it cannot be seen. Proceed, therefore, with faith and perseverance. So here she's saying, okay, my children,
Yeah.
I do understand that Earth is going to a period of transition, one that is going to shake each and every human being on this earth or connected to this earth, because it affects the spirit realm as well. I understand that because of your level of involvement, your spiritual immaturity, it is going to be easier for you to relate and to assimilate the waves of negativity, pessimism that are going to be prevailing during those times. But if you're already reading this book and going through these lessons, I have to assume that you already know better, which doesn't mean that you're there yet. But if you persevere, if you have faith, if you keep on remembering that Jesus is in the command of the earth, there are the laws of God, that we are not abandoned, and that on the contrary, that we are already capable of putting some positivity in the world, instead of being in the line of the complainers, be in the line of the change makers, we're going to see a difference in our atmosphere, in our world, much faster. So it is up to us to where we are going to position our time, ourselves, in those so important times for us personally. And that's what we have to do. And that's why I love Joanna de Angelis, because she brings us with solution. She calls us to maturity. She tells us you are capable of doing that. Turning on the lights. I love that Confucius phrase that instead of complaining about the darkness, light a candle. And I love that he said light a candle. Of course, he couldn't have said anything different, right? Considering his time, electricity was not here. But even for today, it it means even a little flame, because you can have a huge candle, but it's still the flame. It's not going to be this big, right? The flame of a candle is the flame of a candle. It's not so much, but it makes all the difference already in how we position ourselves. Thank you, Orlando, for your comment. You're always very gracious. Okay, more comments or questions, and this is what we are going to write in my tombstone, right? Comments, questions. uh,
This brings me to what I'm reading now, the book I'm reading, A Light in the Darkness,
oh,
which
mm-hmm.
is really amazing.
Is the one from Victor? No, it's
No, it's Joanna de Angelis.
Joanna de Angelis. Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
because
from
they.
2018.
Yes,
It's
yes,
remarkable.
yeah, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can find it. Leal Publisher. I think they not only the paperback copies, or but also the. I think they already have the books. I think I'm not so sure, but the paperback, yes,
I got the paperback on
yes.
Amazon. Yeah.
Mhm. All right, so let's go with faith and perseverance. Let's see what we have for next week. Oh, abortion. That's going to be a difficult topic, but don't miss it, okay? It's always interesting to see how Joanna de Angelis is going to approach this topic. Um, any more question or participation? All right. So remember that if you wanted to recommend your people to watch this later, it's in our YouTube channel, Spiritus Group of New York. Okay.